Hello, I am Michael Collins and this is Media Focus. In this video, I'm going to be playing the independent arcade game Mushihimesama. This game was first released by a company called Cave in 2005, I think, and it was later released for the PlayStation 2 and much later was released for Steam, the online digital distribution service. So essentially, a couple of the things I discovered about this game was that it's quite hard and it's actually very, very hard to talk and to play at the same time. So this is a recording of me playing and I am talking over the top of it. Another issue with this game is it looks slightly choppy when I'm recording it because there's so much going on screen at this time. So let's just talk a little bit about this game. So Mushihimesama is an arcade game. As you can see, I just died there. I'm just going to start again. Mushihimesama is an arcade game. So this is a game that you would go into video game arcades and play, and you would pay a small amount of money, typically 100 yen or maybe £1 for a couple of coins. And I started off playing this game in an arcade in London near Goodge Street Station called the Casino Arcade. And essentially, this is one of the last, it doesn't actually exist anymore, it was one of the last surviving arcades in the United Kingdom. And yeah, so I and my other nerd friends would hang around and we would eat chips and we would play games like Mushihimesama until eventually we managed to get used to the ridiculous difficulty and we would end up managing to complete them pretty much every time. So Mushihimesama is an example of what we call a shooting game, which is sometimes abbreviated to an STG or a shmup. In a shooting game, you typically play a spaceship and you have to dodge loads and loads of bullets. As time went on and people started going to arcades less and less and started to play on home consoles, the shooting game genre continued in arcades until we got to this absolutely ridiculous stage that we see now, where hundreds and hundreds of bullets are released on screen at any time. This is a genre game where you can't just jump into it and expect to be good instantly, which is an excellent example of Henry Jenkins' fan theory in action. This game is not targeting specifically mainstream audiences at all. Instead, this game is very, very much targeting niche audiences. It's primarily targeting audiences of roughly my age, of people who remember going to arcades when they were younger, and who've been playing arcades and want a bit of a more stiff challenge. So what I've done with this is I have used the training mode in this game just to skip to the very, very last stage there, just to kind of show you how tricky things get. And you might notice that unlike a lot of shooting games, for example something like Space Invaders, which would be one of the first ones, or later ones like Gradius or Truxton, you're not actually playing a spaceship in this game. One of the interesting things about this game is you are playing a young woman on the back of a beetle. Just died there. Used to be much better at this game. So you're flying around, you're shooting insects and plants and things like that instead of the standard shooting game kind of aspect. So essentially one of the big draws of this game is its massive difficulty. And although this game does look ridiculously difficult, one of the things I must point out, although I really don't want to, is the game is actually a lot more easy than it looks. Your main character, if you look very, very closely, there's a little dot on her back. And that is the point where if you get hit by a bullet, you die. If anything else touches your character, you're absolutely fine. So at certain points it might seem like I'm doing some absolutely crazy dodges, but actually I'm completely fine because all I need to do is just guide that little middle bit through. Now, arcade games function very, very differently to home console games. So for one thing, they are built for difficulty. Arcade games are much shorter than home console games. Mushihimesama is approximately 25 minutes if you play through the entire thing, which obviously seems like a ridiculous waste of money when you consider how much it costs to import this game, or even like the few pounds it costs to download this game from Steam, it doesn't really seem like an absolutely amazing investment. But the whole idea about arcade games is that you pay your money, as I said, a very small amount of money. You chuck it into the cabinet and you play it over and over and over and over and over again until you get good at it. The whole point of arcade games, technically, is to chuck the player off within about 10 minutes. So if I had actually got up to this level, I would have been doing pretty well. Most people really shouldn't be getting this far, and this is how arcade games make their money. So you see them spinning through there. But another really, really important thing about a game like Mushihimesama is the social aspect to this game as well. So essentially, one of the things I most remember fondly about arcades is I'll be playing a game like this. If I was playing particularly well, what you get is a small crowd building up behind you in the arcade. And right now I'm on the final boss, so I'm really not going to save any of my bombs, any of my resources in this situation. I'm really going to go for it. So once more, we can apply Henry Jenkins' notion to this. Would I see a cool dodge? Look at that. Oh, no, I die. So we can apply Henry Jenkins' notion of fandom to this game, this idea that this game is very, very much appealing to a niche audience, but we can also apply other theories to this as well. So, for example, audience theories such as uses and gratifications theory, and also Stuart Hall's reception theory as well. So this idea that there are many, many different ways, I just won there by the way, there are many, many different ways of playing video games, and even a game like this can also be played in a sociable context as well. So yeah, if you've never ever played a shooting game like this, I'd definitely recommend playing something like Mushihimesama. You get the option to record your replay and to share it with the world there. I'll just bring it in there and just kind of pause it just while I finish this off. Another thing we also need to consider is David Hesmanhal's theory, how the media industry is constructed. So one really, really important thing about the way in which media industries are constructed is we have absolutely enormous corporations, for example, Ubisoft, Activision, and so on. But then within that, we have much smaller companies as well who are completely doing their own thing. So a company like Cave basically specialize in one product and one product only, and that is what is known as 2D shoot-em-ups, or in Japanese sometimes referred to as danmaku shoot-em-ups as well, or in English sometimes we refer to them as bullet hell shoot-em-ups. And these games are completely based and sold on their apparent difficulty, and they appeal to the hardest of the hardcore player. And if we're to think about Henry Jenkins, essentially there are big communities online which are built around these games. This is exactly how I found out about this game many years in 2005 was when I first heard about this game, where I didn't actually get the opportunity to play it for a few years after that. And these communities are really, really important for players. And while there might only really be a few thousand active players of this genre, the people who still play these games in the year 2020 are very, very much the hardest of the hardcore, and they have entire communities based around this. So that's an excellent example of fan theory. And of course, the way I'm playing it right now, the idea of skipping to the last level for a little challenge as well, is also another example of audience negotiation. There are many, many different ways of playing this game. Now, typically it should be played in an arcade, preferably in Japan, completely filled with smoke, blinding volume, flashing lights and things like that. However, the audiences can now play this game safely and comfortably and relatively cheaply at home through download services such as Steam. So Mushihimesama would be an excellent example to chuck into your exam as an example of an independently made game appealing to a very, very niche and hardcore target audience.